Maps have always been a huge part of the human experience now for thousands of years. The oldest map on record is the Catalhoyuk cave painting in Konya, Turkey. It's believed that this image was created sometime around 6200 BCE, which is roughly around an entire millennium before the advent of written language. And ever since then, maps have been around to help guide us to wherever we need to go, and in many ways, they determine how we think about the world around us. But as it turns out, maps can also be a massive source of mis- and disinformation. June of 2019, an unprecedentedly long fire season began in Australia. Lack of soil moisture as well as an uncommonly long dry season led to what became a long and terrible 10 months of fires. During the height of these flames, an artist and designer named Anthony Hearsay created a 3D image of Australia. Pulling data from NASA satellites, he showed all of the places within the country that the fires had hit up to that point. And while the image was quite compelling and relatively accurate within its intended context, the map nevertheless became a cornerstone for false information. As the image was spread across the internet as quickly as the wildfires they depicted, a Facebook page dedicated to the news of the Australian fires reposted the photo with the new caption, "A 3D image of Australia shot from a NASA satellite." This version of the photo with that caption was then subsequently shared around 10,000 times. Then the apex of this mass spread of misinformation came when Rihanna tweeted the photo to her, at the time, 96 million followers. Not long after that, the image began being called out as false, leading to both Facebook and Instagram initially flagging and taking down the original post until it was all cleared up by Hearsay that he never actually at any point claimed that it was a NASA satellite photo. So, it's easy to see how something like this all gets out of hand. The news coming out of Australia at the time seemed so dire, while at the same time, the image appeared genuinely compelling. And while it was a somewhat accurate 3D rendering of the culmination of all the fires up to that point, it was absolutely not what it was being hailed as. Something going viral is a great way for information to be misinterpreted or misrepresented. Back in a 2014 article for Slate, Bren Blatt talked about a popular GIF map that showed which baby names were most popular in every US state, depending on the year. But he points out that while the map is technically correct, the information given isn't as straightforward as it appears at first glance. For instance, the name Ashley is seemingly the most popular name for girls across the US in the years 1991 and 92. Despite that fact, however, a child born in 1984 was 8% more likely to have been named Ashley than a child born in 1992. In fact, 1986 was the year when Ashley peaked as a name within the US. But the reason why the 91 and 92 years showed up on the map is because, as Ashley dipped in popularity as a name, other names dipped even quicker. So while this map isn't incorrect, it can easily lead to an incorrect understanding of what was actually happening at the time. Now, while some of these maps we've been talking about involve misleading statistics or false information that were believed to be true at the time, cell phone coverage maps are just another thing entirely. If you look at one of the maps provided by any of the big telecom companies, you might feel confident in that fee that you're paying every month. Most of the companies show a map largely covered in different shades of the color of their choice. 4G LTE and even 5G is boasted around the majority of the US. But in 2019, the FCC conducted a study to see if cellular data was actually available in all of the places that the larger telecom companies were claiming there was. And as it turns out, it wasn't even close. The company with the highest amount of coverage was still under 65% of what it claimed on their map, with at least one company having coverage closer to around just 45% of the area that it claimed. The FCC is doing its best to get the telecom companies to fall in line, because over-exaggerating about their coverage actually affects an even larger issue. As technology and society advances, it becomes more and more important for people to have internet access and cellular coverage. But if there's money going to be put into infrastructure, we need to actually know where there is coverage and where there isn't. And while a map that's all different shades of purple might look nice and make it seem like the company is ahead of the game, it's really just blocking access to parts of the country that might actually need it the most. But that's just business, right? Governments have never released any confusing or misleading maps before, right? Of course they have. After the 2016 US presidential election, the voting maps that were often shown on TV and in articles were of the country divided into red and blue sections, based on which counties voted for which candidate. If you've ever seen a version of this map before, you've seen that it's essentially just a sea of red across the country with some blue edges and a few scattered blue dots floating throughout the center. And while within the lens of which county voted for which candidate, this map is accurate, it's nonetheless pretty misleading. For instance, regardless of which election it is, painting any county a single color is often highly inaccurate. In a pure win or lose ratio, yeah, one side lost and one side won. However, if a country is only won by 1%, as has been the case with many counties across the US for the past several presidential elections, then painting that entire county a single color doesn't truly represent the entire voter bloc. If one is using the map to imply a landslide, it just isn't accurate without the peripheral data. Coloring in every county in darker or lighter shades of red or blue would dramatically help with this accuracy problem. But there's another inaccuracy inherent within this map as well. If one looks at this map alone without any outside knowledge at all, it might seem as if almost nobody in the country voted for blue, while almost everyone voted for red instead. In reality, however, the votes were much closer than this map suggests. Red received 62,984,828 votes, while blue received 65,853,514 votes, which is well over 2 million more than red. And the reason why this map fails to capture that closer spread is because it's the wrong one to use. This is a map of land, while an election map should really be a map of people. For example, if you look at the land map of the United States, you'd see that New York State and Arkansas are roughly the same size. But there's only 3 million people living in Arkansas, while there's more than 19.5 million people living in New York. That is well over 6.5 times the population of Arkansas, and those are just states with similar sizes. It gets even more bonkers when you look at a comparison of states like New Jersey and Wyoming. By landmass, Wyoming is more than 11 times larger than New Jersey, but by population, New Jersey has more than 15 times the people of Wyoming. In fact, tiny but crowded New Jersey has nearly the same amount of people as Wyoming, Utah, Idaho, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Nebraska do, all combined. But you can reduce the size comparison even further. If you focus on just 9 counties around America's 2 largest cities, New York and Los Angeles, you'll find that the votes cast in just these 9 counties were only 260,000 short of those cast in all 7 of these entire states combined. And thus, if you look at a map of the United States based on where people actually live, like this one, you can clearly see a significantly more even and closer distribution of votes than the one that is based only on land. And then there's all the fake stuff that used to be included on world maps that everybody just thought was real for hundreds of years. Like these strange mountains you've probably never heard about or ever seen before called the Mountains of Kong.